back to We Talk Football. I'm Lance Leach.
I'm Briar Wagner.
If you haven't gone on our website, wetalkfootball.org, I highly recommend you go check that out. Go to the blog tab, you'll see all the articles that have been posted recently. Also go like us on Facebook and follow us on Twitter.
You can also make sure to subscribe to us on YouTube, iTunes, and SoundCloud. I think you can subscribe there. So
we'll start out by reviewing what happened this last week. A few of the games, some of the more interesting ones, like the Rams beat the Seahawks in the return to LA, 9-6. Not a pretty game.
9-6, 9-3.
9-3, yeah.
Yeah,
I have it written.
It was even worse.
Not a pretty game. I called it though.
You did.
I did.
You did. Give you that.
Seattle really has to figure out what this problem is, where they start out really slow. I know it frustrates the heck out of fantasy football owners, Russell Wilson. But yeah, you with Seattle's defense.
They have done nothing for me. I think we're tied with defense right now. You have the Chiefs, who have been
So the Titans-Detroit game, that was a fun one to watch. Detroit goes up early. Titans come back. They're down 15-10. Last minute of the game.
Mm-hmm.
Mariota hits Andre Johnson in the back of the end zone for a touchdown. They go up 16-15, miss the 2-point conversion, and then they end up preventing Detroit from scoring downfield. So they ended up putting the game out of range. Actually, it was Parrish Cox who had a really rough game up to that point, who picked off Stafford and ended the game. So
it's a nice way to finish off.
I enjoyed watching that one. How about the Browns? Oh man, the Browns, they put up 20 points in the first quarter.
It was 20-2 at one point.
Failed to score for the rest of the game. Baltimore comes back and wins it 25-20.
Ridiculous.
If you don't think the Browns are jinxed, I think you want to look into it, because Josh McCown starts the game, injures his shoulder, goes in the locker room, comes back out, plays with an injured non-throwing shoulder. I believe he separated it.
I think that was something like that.
Plays through the pain, still loses the game, and now they're starting a rookie quarterback this next week because RG3 is hurt, Josh McCown's hurt, and they don't really have anyone else on the roster. They signed Charlie Whitehurst, but you're not going to throw a quarterback in 2 days after he comes through as a team.
Well, at this point, can you be any worse?
You might as well go with Cody Kessler, but yeah, it's going to be a mess for them this upcoming week.
The season is going to be a mess.
The last one I want to cover is San Diego demolishing Jacksonville, 38-14. And
not at all what I thought was going to happen.
The 14 points that Jacksonville got were in garbage time.
Lucky for you.
Lucky for me. Bortles threw for 300 yards, but most of his production came in garbage time.
Yeah.
It was a disaster for Jacksonville. San Diego without Keenan Allen. Danny Woodhead going down with an ACL injury halfway through the game. Still ended up doing this to Jacksonville. It was impressive for San Diego. Depressing for Jacksonville.
Very depressing, especially with all the improvements they've made on defense, getting players in the draft, getting key players back that they lost last year. They've just been all sorts of out of whack this season.
Yep.
All right, so you got yours. One of mine, I think we can both agree, it doesn't make any flippin' sense to me at all. The Jets and Bills game. How is your offense the Bills, how's the offense going to go and put up 31 points? The defense lets 37. You're going to fire your offensive coordinator. Where's the thought in that? And not only that, but it was sketchy how it happened too. The owners had a meeting with the players only. Coaches weren't involved. Rex Ryan had no idea. And they fired the offensive coordinator. Depressing enough, you found out just after a team photo was taken. They pulled him to the side and was like, yeah, we're going to have to let you go.
Thanks for taking the picture.
We're going to take this one without you. No offense. And that makes no sense. The defense played terribly. Fitzpatrick threw for 374 yards, touchdown to Decker. Forte bounded in the end zone 3 times.
Yeah, sorry if you listened to me last week.
He made his last score, put the game out of reach 37-24 with 4 minutes left. That's on your defense. The offense played pretty well. The Bills they had over 300 yards passing.
We saw the Tyrod that we expected.
Tyrod played great. 3 touchdowns, his 1 pick. They didn't get sacks at all.
I left my water bottle over there.
Oh, of course you did. They didn't get sacks at all, or they weren't sacked. They didn't turn the ball over other than that 1 pick. They had about 86 yards of I don't understand it. I don't understand it at all. If anything, there needs to be some serious changes made to the defense. And the defense, sure, they might have some excuses. They've taken a lot of injuries. They have players suspended. But you don't go and fire your offensive coordinator, not after the game they had.
Yeah, I'm with you there.
Anyways, Bucks and Cards. Wow. What a flip for both teams. Bucks were, flying high, coming in, beating Atlanta at Atlanta last minute, a 35-28 or something, whatever the score was. Cardinals, on the flip side of the coin, had a depressing defeat to Jimmy Garoppolo and the Patriots in Sunday Night Football. I think the Cards were a little pissed. They picked off Winston 4 times, 2 of them by Marcus Cooper, who they just picked up off the waiver wire, and then Winston fumbled the ball once. It's safe to say he followed up the best game of his career against Atlanta with the worst game of his career. Yeah. It was just terrible. Palmer threw 17 for 30 for 304 yards and 3 scores without playing basically the entire fourth quarter. It was bad for the Bucks. The Saints and Giants game. This one depressed me on a personal level.
It did the exact opposite.
It did.
Of everyone expected.
Last year, they set it was third in NFL history with 101 points scored from both teams. Breeze had 511 yards, 7 touchdowns. I don't know what Eli threw, but he had 6 touchdowns. It was just a crazy game. And then you come to what happened last week. There was 1 offensive touchdown scored from both teams. That was Breeze to Willie Snead. The Giants' only touchdown they got was on a blocked field goal. So sorry if you listen to me saying sit the Giants' defense. That put up some good points. And the last one I've got Cowboys-Redskins. I don't know if you saw. There's a lot of complaining right now about Kirk Cousins in the Redskins locker room. I was looking through the stats, at least of the Cowboys game. I don't blame that game on him. I blame it on the Redskins defense. There was 2 different goal line opportunities that they just let the Dallas running back just waltz right in the end zone. There's a 4th and 1. Prescott play faked it, immediately dumped it to one of his tight ends. Can't remember his name. Who brought it to the 5-yard line. That's on the defense. Kirk Cousins, he hasn't been sharp. I mean, he hasn't played well. He only got, I don't think I have it here, but I think I saw he only had 200 some odd passing yards, 2 touchdowns and a pick. But I mean, that's still not a terrible game. So, I don't know. That's what I got from my games.
Yeah, we knew Washington had a lot more problems going into the season than their quarterback situation.
That's one of the least worrying positions.
The signing for Josh Norman was nice, but they don't want to use him correctly, so, hey.
Well, he did have one good play. He got Ezekiel Elliott the fumble.
I'm talking about not wanting to put him on the number 1 receiver.
We could talk about, the whole time. All right, so I got some injuries quick.
Injuries.
A lot of them. I just picked out some of the key ones, some that might really affect people. AP, as everyone knows, tore his meniscus Sunday night. He's expected to hopefully, optimistically, be back mid-December, just in time for hopefully a playoff push. Doug Martin, terrible, hurts me. He got me 1 point last week before going down. Tweaked his hamstring. They think there might be a slight tear in there, so they're saying at least 3 weeks. But with hamstring injuries, that could flare up again in a moment. So don't be surprised if he doesn't come back in 3 or if he re-injures it. Dante Moncrief out 4 to 6 weeks, fractured shoulder blade. Amir Abdullah found out today, placed on IR for his foot. He is a candidate for the IR boomerang. I don't really quite understand how that whole works. I just know it has to be at least 8 weeks being on IR. Jay Cutler, I think he fractured something in his thumb, out 2 to 3 weeks at least, depending on how he heals. Some positive notes. Tyler Eifert is to begin running routes again this week, which is a good sign. And Jamal Charles is expected to start for the Chiefs this week.
Also, you missed Danny Woodhead tore his ACL. He's
yeah.
done for the year too.
Well, you had touched on that, so. All right.
So, fantasy starts and sits.
Let's go.
What we do here is we each pick 1 per position, 1 start, 1 sit. And I'll kick us off. Quarterbacks, I got Matt Ryan against the Saints. Normally, I wouldn't go with this. Ryan generally doesn't do all that well on the road. It's a division game, regardless of who it's against. Division games are always tough. But with the way Ryan's been playing the last 2 weeks, including a road game last week against Oakland, he's been doing great statistically. And now he gets to go against a Saints secondary that's without Delvin Breaux. So it's got to make you wonder who's going to be able to keep up with Julio without causing 100-plus yards and penalties because you keep interfering with them.
Hey, we don't have Brandon Browner anymore. That's all right.
So, yeah, I think Matt Ryan's going to have a really good game. I'd start him. Plus, it's a Monday night game, so it gives you somebody to keep an eye on if you don't have somebody on the Saints offense.
He's just saying to start him because he's starting him this week.
I am starting him this week, yeah.
All right, I'm saying start Dak Prescott versus Chicago. Chicago's secondary has been pretty leaky up to this point. And Dak, I mean, not to take any away from Dak, Dak's been playing great. I mean, there isn't Chicago's. Look at what Wentz did on Monday night to him. So I'm taking the rookie again, or another rookie versus Chicago. My sit Fitzmagic. I'm sorry, got to sit Fitz. Kansas City at home has been a nightmare for quarterbacks. Their last 3 out of their last 8 games have held quarterbacks to under 180 yards.
Plus, Peters is back at it.
Peters is back at it, and plus, I did forget another injury. If Brandon Marshall is not able to go, that means his second best receiver is on. Peters is going to be on. It's just not going to be a good week for Fitzmagic.
I'm sitting Tyrod Taylor against Arizona.
Yep.
The Taylor that we saw this last Thursday against the Jets is exactly who we expected to see, and I was glad for that.
Was who we thought he was.
But the problem is Arizona seems to have fixed whatever the problems were from week 1,
Okay.
and they made Jameis Winston look like he was a high school quarterback out on the football field last week. So sit Tyrod this week and see if he has a more favorable matchup next week. At running back, I'm saying start Mark Ingram against the Falcons. Ingram is off to a slow start, but I think that'll turn around this week. The Saints are going to have to be a little more balanced with their game if they plan on beating the Falcons, I believe, personally. They're going to have to be able to control the clock a little bit more and keep their defense on the sidelines. Also, the Falcons gave up double-digit fantasy points to Latavius Murray last week, so I think a little bit favorable matchup for Ingram.
All right, for my start running back, I'm saying start LeGarrette Blount versus Houston. As everyone knows, that's another injury I missed. Jimmy Garoppolo, unquestionable. He's probably not going to play in such a short, turnaround. I think he injured something in his shoulder. They're going to run the ball a lot, and they've got a rookie, Brissett.
Yeah,
Brissett's going to be playing. I think it's funny. They instead of bringing in a veteran quarterback to back Brissett up, they're going to run with Julian Edelman as the backup quarterback.
Hasn't played quarterback since college.
So that'll be interesting. But he's what little bit they have had him throw, he's perfect so far. So no, but I think they're going to run it a lot. They're going to try to keep the pressure off Brissett. Kind of just hand the ball off, keep him calm under pressure. My sit. Eddie Lacy versus Detroit. Lance said earlier, division games are really tough. Detroit's got Eddie Lacy's number. His last 3 games against Detroit, they've held him to under 5 points in fantasy on average. So, and he's been subpar this season. So I don't expect that to change this week.
My sit is Jamal Charles against the Jets. If you decided to use a pick on Charles, I'm sure you've been waiting for the week that you'd be able to finally start him. This week is not that week. He's going against the Jets, one of the best run defenses in the league. And coming after not played for a full season, it's going to be rough. It could get ugly for him. If he doesn't play and you have Spencer Ware, I'd also sit him. Sorry.
That's he's already set.
But if they decide Charles isn't good to go, bench Ware also. The Jets defense, not somebody you want to try and start a running back against, unless you absolutely have to.
All right.
Wide receiver, my start is Stephon Diggs against Carolina. So Diggs had 9 receptions for 182 yards and a touchdown last week against one of the better young cornerbacks in the league, Demarius Randall. With how much the Vikings like to move Diggs around, they're going to get him in situations where he's one-on-one against those rookie cornerbacks that Carolina has, and he's going to have the upper hand in those situations. Even if Carolina figures out a way to keep Ben McKeer on him all day, I don't think they're going to be able to shut him down. Minnesota's going to have to rely on him, too, with AP out. So I think Diggs ends up having a good week again.
All right, my start at receiver, I've got Mike Wallace versus Jacksonville. Wallace and Flacco seem to have some really nice deep connection going on, which I think it's gonna come into play here. Jacksonville, their defense hasn't shown they can stop anyone, and we saw what San Diego did to them last week. I think
Travis Benjamin, Tyrell Williams.
I think the Ravens have got a better offense situation than the Chargers do, just given with all the Chargers injuries and key players they've got down. So I expect Wallace and even Steve Smith and Dennis Pitta, it's just going to be a good game for the receivers for the Ravens. I'm saying sit Golden Tate versus Green Bay. Tate has seemed to have taken a backseat to everyone in this Detroit offense. And like you said earlier, Green Bay's they've got a pretty good secondary, and he's not getting the ball like he should be. He's taking a backseat to Anquan Bolden, which, the old man's still putting up yards.
So for me, my sit is Deshaun Jackson against the Giants. Dominique Rodgers-Cromartie has shut down Dez Bryant and Brandon Cooks in back-to-back weeks. Deshaun Jackson's not as good as either one of them anymore at this point in his career. Plus, he didn't have a great week last week. The receiving core is pretty crowded over there in Washington. Just leave him on your bench. Bench him this week because of the matchup. Leave him on your bench until Washington figures out their whole offensive problems and, their team problems as a whole. My start at tight end is Jimmy Graham against San Fran. Graham is back, in case you were wondering. He did play some last week.
Haven't heard his name. He played 52 snaps last week.
That'll continue to increase as the weeks go on. But this week he's going against San Fran, who gave up 100-plus yards and a touchdown to Greg Olsen. Now, Greg Olsen is one of the better tight ends in the league, but if Graham even got half that amount of yards in the touchdown, he'd still be putting up solid tight end numbers in fantasy. So
especially this year's tight ends numbers, they've just been crap. Excuse me. My start at tight end, Antonio Gates. I know pretty sure he was thought of as a sit maybe week 1 or 2, but just with all the injuries with San Diego, Keenan Allen going down week 1, Danny Woodhead going down week 2.
But is Gates next?
He might be. It's a trend. Your top receiving option goes down each week. I think Gates is going to be he's just by volume, he should be a start this week. And especially the matchup. Indy's got such question marks in their secondary. All right, my sit, Jesse James versus Philadelphia. This is more of a matchup issue. Philadelphia has given up the least amount of points to tight ends this season thus far, and I just don't see that changing.
All right, so my sit for this week at tight end is Jared Cook against Detroit. I hope you all were listening to me this offseason when I said Jared Cook is not who everybody has been hyping him up to be. He's been hyped up his whole career. He hasn't done anything. I don't care if it's Aaron Rodgers throwing him the ball or not. He underwhelms, and that's his problem, and that's what he's doing right now. He's actually losing reps to Richard Rodgers, so that hurts him. And then last week, the Lions managed to keep Dwayne Allen 2 weeks ago. Was that against Indy?
Yeah.
They managed to keep Dwayne Allen relatively quiet. I think we're going to see much of the same out of Detroit this week and much the same out of Cooks this week, especially if he continues to lose reps to Richard Rodgers. Leave him on your bench. Drop him even. Go find somebody else. Somebody who's actually worth something. Start for kicker?
Start for kicker.
So, like I mentioned in the previous weeks, when it comes to kickers and defenses, I'm going to aim for players units that you generally don't have that you'll probably see on the waiver wire for those of you who decide that you like to stream those positions. So my start for kicker is Cairo Santos against the Jets. He's the Chiefs kicker. The Jets have one of the top third down defenses so far this season, which is good news if you own Cairo Santos and the Chiefs manage to get it down into kicking range. The Jets can shut him down. Santos can be kicking a lot of field goals. Plus, the Chiefs struggled against Houston last week, and Houston's got a top defense, and the Jets have a top defense, so could see some more problems for the Chiefs.
I'm saying start Chandler Catanzaro versus Buffalo. He put up quite a bit of points last week versus Tampa Bay. I don't see that changing with all of Buffalo's issues. Maybe we will see the defensive coordinator get fired this week. Sit Jason Myers, the Jacksonville kicker versus Baltimore. This is more one of those. I don't think Jacksonville's going to put up a lot of points. It's going to be a low-scoring affair for both sides of the ball, with Baltimore eking out more points. Oh, did I give away a pick?
I'm going to say sit Brandon McManus against Cincinnati. Since he's currently allowing just over 17 points per game. Plus, I don't know what it is about the Bengals, but when the Broncos meet them, they tend to run into problems. It was like 2 years ago on a Thursday night game when Manning threw 4 picks against them. Simeon continues to struggle with his reads. I mean, I know a lot of people are high on what he's doing for Denver right now, but if you watch him, he stares down his receivers and he decides to make throws that he shouldn't be making. Like when 2 defenders are running in at your face, you don't throw it in their direction, you throw it away, or you take the sack. Almost got picked in the last week before.
He did throw a pick last week.
No, I meant off that play.
Oh,
but
yeah.
Anyways, so yeah, I just don't see Denver moving the ball that well in offense. Their best bet would be for their defense to cause turnovers down in the red zone, which is a possibility with Andy Dalton.
With Denver's defense, look what they've been doing this season.
But you're better off putting your money on a team's offense than a team's defense. So, sit Brandon McManus. My start for defense is Miami against Cleveland. Pretty obvious
goes
choice.
Saying.
But Miami is more than likely out there on your waiver wire, so go grab them, stream them. Cleveland has already been turnover prone so far this season, and now they have a rookie quarterback starting, and he hasn't had a lot of time with the ones. He spent most of preseason sitting behind RG3 and Josh McCown. So Miami's defense is probably going to put up a lot of points. I'd go grab them.
My start, the Bengals versus Denver. Lance basically gave away when he was talking about the kicker issues that the Bengals are basically licking their chops at getting Trevor Siemian. He's thrown 3 picks in his last 2 games. They're both at home against last week. It wasn't too tough a team to play. For week 1 being Carolina, that okay, that's a given. But no, now we're going back to Cincy at Cincy. It's gonna be a long day for this Denver offense. Mm-hmm. My sitting the Vikings versus Carolina.
I tried doing that last week.
I know. I'm going for it this week. Week 1, Vikings at Tennessee. Young Marcus Mariota still growing pains on the Tennessee offense. Week 2, division rival. You can't really predict what's going to happen. Now we've got Carolina, who doesn't really turn the ball over. They're they secure the ball. Cam Newton's not going to make the same mistakes that Marcus Mariota makes. You might get a fumble or something out of Jonathan Stewart, but Stewart's hurt. Never mind.
The Vikings. Stewart's another injury. 1 to 2 weeks, I think, is what they're saying.
Missed that one.
My sit is New England against Houston. We already talked about how the Patriots are starting a rookie quarterback in Brissett. With him running the show, it's going to make it tough for them to move the ball. And with him running the show last week against Miami, that's why Miami was able to get back in the game, because New England wasn't able to keep the ball, keep moving it, keep the clock running in their favor, which allowed Miami back into it. Plus, Houston's weapons are a lot better than what Miami has. DeAndre Hopkins, Will Fuller
weapons
so far, Lamar Miller, who they got from Miami. Put New England on your bench. Go grab Miami if you have New England.
All right.
Jumping into our weekly picks. Are we good?
We're good. That's where we're going, and it looks like...
Well, I hope that we got the first one right. Thursday night. Thursday night, Houston at New England. Going with Houston. for all the reasons that I just said. Jacoby Brissett's running at quarterback. Garoppolo looked good, and New England does have a very quarterback-friendly system. But Brissett's a rookie, and Houston's got J.J. Watt, so expect him to cause Brissett a lot of problems.
Now, I'm taking Houston too. I will say, like I said last week with the Minnesota-Green Bay game, it is Bill Belichick. Don't be surprised if Patriots put up a fight and even eke out a victory. That defense is still something.
Yeah.
So, all right, next we got Arizona at Buffalo.
Mm-hmm.
I'm taking Arizona. Arizona seems to be – they just needed one more week of preseason. Week 2, it looks like that should be the Arizona team that we see from here on out, barring any crazy injuries. And Buffalo, they've got a lot of questions. I'm curious to see how their offense is going to change now that they have a new offensive coordinator.
I'm with you there. I'm taking Arizona too. Pretty obvious. They have the better defense, the healthier team, more weapons on offense. Arizona's going to win this game. Unless something crazy happens.
And any given Sunday.
Next, we got Minnesota, Carolina. And I'm taking Carolina. Yeah, 1, it's in Carolina. 2, Minnesota doesn't have AP to cause teams to stack the box to free up the weapons for Sam Bradford. And 3, Carolina's offense has been clicking again.
Mm-hmm.
Kelvin Benjamin looked great last week. Greg Olsen looked great last week. Granted, it was against San Fran.
Hey, but that San Fran shut out the Rams.
Yeah. So, I'm going with Carolina.
Yeah, I'm taking Carolina too. Like I said, Carolina's not turning the balls over, which is what Minnesota's been using to thrive. No, what's been using to win. It's why they won week 1. Goes into a lot of why they won week 2. They made Green Bay fumble their first drive. Green Bay recovered it again, but they can cause those plays, and Carolina's just not going to make those mistakes. All right, next we got Detroit at Green Bay.
No, 1 up.
Oh, 1 up. Sorry. Denver at Cincy. I'm taking Cincy in this one. That's why I said start their defense. They're excited to get Trevor Siemian. They're gonna force a lot of turnovers. Put Andy Dalton in. The Bengals have been they're starting to get on a roll too. AJ Green's been looking good. Andy Dalton's been throwing pretty well, and that's gonna keep going here.
You can't take what Cincinnati did last week all too seriously. When it comes to Cincinnati and Pittsburgh, it's always a battle. It's always struggling when it comes to Andy Dalton, and there's
not to
struggles
mention
when it comes
the field
to Ben
is
Roethlisberger.
Terrible.
I think that Cincinnati fully bounces back this week, especially defensively against Trevor Siemian. And I'm really starting to wonder how many more weeks we're going to see Siemian before they finally decide to put him back.
When is their bye week?
I don't know.
I would think by if it's a mid-ish bye week, I think that's when we'll see Lynch come in.
I have it in here somewhere.
Oh, you're next, so.
I'm going to find it first.
Okay.
Oh, week 11. Yeah.
Week 8, we'll see Lynch.
Okay.
Circle it.
Next, we have Detroit at Green Bay.
Yep.
And I'm going with Green Bay. It's at Lambeau. Probably the most important factor there. Aaron Rodgers isn't going to allow 2 weeks of what happened last week. And if anything, he's going to come back firing, and Detroit's going to get all the hell brought down on their heads. Yeah. So
I'm scared. We saw what happened last time. Last year, was it, when Aaron Rodgers had to say relax to everyone?
Yeah.
He said it again this week. Oh. It's and then as soon as he said that, they literally turned around and made a run in the playoffs. So watch out. Yeah, if you didn't catch, I'm taking Green Bay too. All right, Baltimore, Jacksonville. I already said I'm taking Baltimore in this one. Jacksonville has left a lot to be desired, especially in way of their defense. I already talked about it earlier.
I'm going with Jacksonville, actually. Baltimore hasn't looked all that impressive. First off, you give up 20 points to Josh McCown and the Cleveland Browns in the first quarter, and then beat them because it's Cleveland. The first week, you managed just 13 points against a very injury-riddled Buffalo defense. I don't like what Baltimore is doing. They might be 2-0, but I don't have a lot of faith in them. And I think that Jacksonville has got to turn their ship around at some point, especially if Gus Bradley wants to keep his job. I think Jacksonville wins this week, and we start to see them going in the right direction.
Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying Baltimore's got all the answers right now. I think they have just a few more answers than than Jacksonville does at the current moment. Now, Jacksonville, they might come back hungry after the licking they just took. They might come back at home, and we might see the team that everyone saw on paper. So
next is Cleveland at Miami. Just going with Miami.
Miami.
Their points have already been made. Cody Kessler, rookie quarterback for Cleveland.
Even up till then, Cleveland hasn't looked good.
So, yeah. Next.
Washington at the Giants. Division games are always fun to pick. I'm picking the Giants. Giants are at home. I think the offense bounces back. Their defense looked really good last week. They held Breeze to under 300 yards. How often do you hear that? And Washington, they've got their defense has got some issues they need to work out. The offense has got some issues.
I'm going with the Giants too. They're another team though that's 2-0 that I don't think has been all that impressive. They're struggling on offense, which is the better side of their ball, of their game, I should say.
Mm-hmm.
Eli Manning hasn't looked himself. Odell Beckham is not playing like himself.
He's not. That's surprising.
Washington has got so many problems, especially on defense. And even if they decide to let Josh Norman roam with Odell Beckham, the Giants still have Victor Cruz, and they have Sterling Shepard, and they have Larry Donnell. So it's not like the Giants have one weapon, and if you shut it down, their offense is dead. But they need to figure out something if they want to keep going forward. But yeah, I'm going with the Giants. Next is Oakland at Tennessee. Yeah,
I'm taking Oakland.
I'm going with Oakland too. I like Mariota. And
I do too. Don't get me wrong.
Tennessee is going to end up getting this. What do they call it? The ground and pound, the exotic smash mouth football.
Yeah.
I think they're going to get that going at some point. But Oakland's going to be hungry. They beat New Orleans in New Orleans.
They beat New Orleans in New Orleans.
They lost last
Atlanta.
week at home against Atlanta. I think they're going to want to turn that back around and show that they are for real. So yeah.
I think the way they get it turning around, though, is we need to start hearing Khalil Mack. He did this last season, or his first 5-ish games, I think. We didn't hear anything from him. And then he went on and got 15 sacks in the last 10, 11 games. So
plus, I also just want to point, I like Amari Cooper and Michael Crabtree more than I like Golden Tate and Marvin Jones. So
yeah.
I think, and also Derek Carr more than Stafford. So I think Oakland will have an easier time against Tennessee secondary.
All right, next we've got San Fran at Seattle. This one's a tough one to pick. Seattle hasn't looked like we expected. Though they've been playing like they have in recent years. They start off really slow, but then they kind of pick it up. It's week 3. Still early in the season for them. They still might be playing slow. San Fran's been looking better than we expected, and also held the division rival Rams to 0. Seahawks only got 3 points last week against the Rams. I'm going to take San Fran in this one. I think it's a little bit of an upset being it's at Seattle, but
I'm going with Seattle because it's, 1, they're at home, and 2, I just don't see them allowing division rivals beat them back-to-back weeks, especially when it's the 2 lower end of the division teams.
It's also early in the season.
So,
They're being
I
really...
know, but I think that they pulled it off this week. And actually, I think that for all you Russell Wilson owners out there, I think you can put him in this week. Just don't count on that being a full-fledged thing for the rest of the season. I just think he pulls one out at the beginning.
Unless that ankle injury is still bothering him.
Next we got LA at Tampa, and I'm going with Tampa in this one.
Yeah.
LA doesn't have an offense. Tampa does. I think if Tampa can get points put on the board, LA is not going to be able to keep up. The game's going to get out of hand.
Yeah, LA is not built for a high volume, high scoring game, and
plus
Tampa can.
Tampa's weak spot is their secondary. In case Keenum's not going to scare anyone.
Nope. So yeah, I've got Tampa too, and Tampa's at home. They're going to come home. They're going to be ready to go again. Let's see, San Diego at Indy. Is that what you got?
Yep.
I'm going to take San Diego in this one. I don't like Indy. I don't like Indy secondary. I just don't. Phillip Rivers seems to keep finding a way. When these players keep going down, he still finds the next man up. He finds someone to keep going.
Rivers is the guy that just never. He is Thomas the Train.
He is. Just keep going. Just keep going. So I think that's going to keep happening. Indy's secondary, they're terrible. They're really bad. A lot of injuries, and it's not going to be good, especially now that they're down Dante Moncrief, who they've got at third. Justin Verrett's going to be on Hopkins.
Hilton.
Hilton. T.Y. I'm sorry, mix up teams. Regardless, they don't have a second option. They don't have a third. It's San Diego.
Yeah, I'm going with San Diego too. Like I said, Rivers is Thomas. He's the train.
The little engine that could.
Keeps going. So next we have the Jets at Kansas City.
Yep.
And I'm going with the Jets. If you didn't get that little prelude from bench Jamal Charles, I think the Jets are gonna have they have more offensive firepower than the Chiefs do. Everyone likes to point out what Alex Smith did week 1, but then he played against a real defense last week and he threw 2 picks to Marcus Peters and everything just seemed to fall apart for the Chiefs. Yeah, I think I think the Jets will get this done despite being at Kansas City, one of the harder places to play.
See, that's where I'm taking Kansas City. The Chiefs, they do play better when they're at home. The Chiefs, the Jets do have more offensive weapons, but they might be down their top weapon at the moment, which is gonna set them back. And like I said earlier, the Chiefs, the last 3 out of the last 8 games, they've held the quarterbacks under 180 yards. I mean, those other 5 games, I think the max was like 220 that was put up.
Look, as long as Fitzpatrick throws 180 yards to Eric Decker.
Oh, okay. So no, I'm taking the Chiefs in this one. I think the Chiefs, they have the force up front, the stop Forte. They're not going to let what happened against Buffalo happen to them. Next, we got Pitt and Philly. This one is an interesting one. You've got the rookie who's got the hot hand right now. Granted, he's played one terrible defense and one suspect defense in the Bears. And then you've got Pitt, who's got all the answers on offense, but their defense is still somewhat shaky. I'm thinking this will turn into a shootout, which means I'm going to lend my hand to Pittsburgh. They've got the better weapons on offense in D'Angelo Williams, Antonio Brown, Big Ben.
Yeah, so I'm going with Pittsburgh. I think all those Philly fans out there who are calling it Wentzylvania and all that stuff are going to be brought back down to earth.
Real quick.
Wentz has done it against 2 defenses that are not up to par. Now, granted, Pittsburgh doesn't have the greatest secondary, but they're playing really well lately, and that offense is stellar. So Philly's going to get a little taste of what a real quarterback looks like with Ben Roethlisberger, and they're going to realize that the rookie is exactly that, a rookie. He, don't get me wrong, has had 2 very solid performances to start his career, but he's still a rookie. The veteran's going to win this one. Next, we got Sunday Night Football, Chicago at Dallas. Not really looking forward to this game, but yeah, I'm going with Dallas.
Yep.
Chicago without Jay Cutler.
I mean, they didn't have much of a chance
even with
Cutler.
Jay Cutler, but without Jay Cutler, things just get worse on offense, and the defense, like I said, not very good, not good at all. Prescott, I think, has a better game than his first 2. Last week was nice, but I think he ends up doing better this week even.
He's been steadily improving as the season's gone on. He's been improving.
He's going to get better this week. I'm going with
Dallas. All right. Then we got the Monday night. My favorite game of the week. Atlanta at New Orleans. I'm on division games. I said earlier they're tough, but I'm gonna give the hand to New Orleans here. Every time Atlanta comes into the Superdome on a Monday night, Atlanta just craps themselves. The Saints ride some huge energy wave that blow them past the Falcons. I don't see that changing here.
I'm going with the Falcons.
I know you are because you got Matt Ryan.
That's not why I'm going with the Falcons. I'm going with the Falcons because of Julio Jones primarily. I don't see anyone in New Orleans secondary being able to shut him down. And if you look at Atlanta's secondary, Desmond Trufant's going to be on Cooks. And they're going to have Robert Alford on, probably Michael Thomas, and Snead plays the slot. Snead will be the key for New Orleans offense, but I think that Atlanta has the better chance of putting up more points And last week, everyone expected the Giants-Saints game to be a shootout. This week, I think the Falcons-Saints game is going to be a shootout. Monday night, division rivalry. It's going to be a lot of fun.
It's been 10 years since the reopening after Katrina. Steve Gleason will probably be. There's going to be a lot of energy in that dome.
Yeah, I'm going with Atlanta. I think they're already riding with some momentum after last week's victory over Oakland. So,
All right.
That wraps that up. Tune in next week. See what we got.